Hello, Steve. Hello, everybody. So, great financial numbers you saw. Low inflation, very low inflation. Prices are down, way down. Gasoline is less than $2 in many places a gallon, which nobody expected to see, but I did, because we're going by the initial expression of drill, baby, drill, and prices are coming down very strongly. And as goes gasoline and oil and gas, so goes the rest of other products that were high because of Biden. So we inherited a mess, and we've brought our country back very, very powerfully. Crime numbers are way down, despite the fact that they let in 25 million people, many of whom should not have been allowed into our country with their open border policy. But it's the country's doing very well. Any questions?
What are you expecting from these Iran talks in Geneva tomorrow?
So I'll be involved in those talks indirectly, and they'll be very important. We'll see what can happen. It's been typically, Iran's a very tough negotiator. They're good negotiators, or bad negotiators. I would say they're bad negotiators, because we could have had a deal instead of sending the B-2s in to knock out their nuclear potential. We had to send the B-2s. I hope they're going to be more reasonable. They want to make a deal.
Have you been told that a deal is next to impossible?
No, I think they want to make a deal. I don't think they want the consequences of not making a deal. They want to make a deal.
Are you going to sit down with Democrats this week on DHS funding, sir?
I will, but we have to protect our law enforcement. They've done a great job. I just got finished saying that we have the best crime numbers we've had in many years, and on murders, 125 years, and that's despite a lot of people that shouldn't have been let into our country coming into our country, criminals, many, many criminals, but we've taken out tens of thousands of people, brought them back to their countries. Many of the criminals that were brought in, allowed to come in, have been removed, so we're okay. But to have the best crime numbers, which aren't made by me, these are made by people that do that, many left-leaning. We have the best murder numbers, horrible thing to say, but we have the best murder numbers since 1900. That's before my father was born. 125 years, think of it. The best crime numbers since 1900 having to do with murder, and really good crime numbers, the best in years.
Are there any demands that Democrats are making that you're okay with?
Well, I don't like some of the things they're asking for. We're going to protect law enforcement. We're going to protect ICE. They're part of the whole system that is working. In Washington, D.C. now is considered a very safe city. When I took over, it was a city that we were losing 2-3 people a week. Over 100 people a year were being murdered in Washington. Now it's considered a very safe city. And we did that. I did it over a fairly short period of time, too.
On DHS, recent news reports have discussed the widespread belief that Kristi Noem and Corey Lewandowski are in a personal relationship. Is that a bad look? Recent news reports have discussed the possibility that Kristi Noem and Corey Lewandowski are in a close personal relationship. Is that a bad look, and do you think she'll be in the job much longer?
I don't know about that. I mean, I haven't heard that. I'll find out about it, but I have not heard it.
Do you think that will you give your State of the Union speech if we're still in a shutdown next week?
Well, I think I would. Wouldn't bother me. I would give it, yeah.
How are the negotiations going?
With what? Which one? We have a lot of
No,
negotiations.
with the government shutdown.
This is a Democrat shutdown. This has nothing to do with Republicans. This is a Democrat shutdown.
has the White
They're
House-
upset that the crime numbers are so good. They're very unhappy that the crime numbers are so good. They're very unhappy that there's a movement for getting voter ID. They want voter ID.
All right, folks, buckle up. Because what we just watched on Air Force One was not your typical polished, teleprompter-driven press conference. That was raw. That was unscripted. That was the President of the United States standing in the aisle of Air Force One, taking every question they threw at him from Iran to Cuba to a government shutdown to Hillary Clinton and not blinking. And whether the media likes it or not, that kind of direct engagement is something we haven't seen consistently in years. Let's break this down.
If you know it's corrupt, it's a corrupt system. We're the only country in the world that has this system of mail-in ballots. Think of it. The only country in the world that has this system of mail-in ballots, because they cheat. And the fact is they could never get elected if they ever changed. They know it. If you had voter ID, if you had proof of citizenship, they could never win an election. And they know that. And they're fighting to the hill. And I put this down with men playing in women's sports. I put it down with transgender for everybody. I put it down with their horrible open border policy as being ridiculous. They don't want voter ID. No voter ID. And I put that down in the same category with men playing in women's sports. I'm going to add a fourth category. They don't want voter ID. Go ahead.
So Hillary Clinton said in an interview today that she and her husband are getting pulled into the Epstein matter to divert attention from you and that your administration has something to hide. What's your response to that?
I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. They went in hoping that they'd find it and found just the opposite. I've been totally exonerated. In fact, Jeffrey Epstein was fighting that I don't get elected with some author, a sleazebag, by the way. And I've been totally exonerated. No, they're getting pulled in, and that's their problem. I don't know, they're going to have to see what happens. But I watched her in Munich, and she seriously has Trump derangement syndrome.
Do you think that she should publicly testify?
You know, I've been totally exonerated on Epstein. And it's really interesting because they've been pulled in. Think of it. They've been pulled in. Clinton and many other Democrats have been pulled in, yeah.
The USS Gerald Ford, which is sprinting from the Caribbean to the Middle East, is about to hit its 8-month deployment mark. Usually they're deployed for about 6 months or so. Is there any concern that U.S. carriers are being stretched too thin?
I'll answer the question later.
Mr. President, you're warning Cuba to make a deal. What does that deal look like? What do you want them to
Make
do?
a deal. Cuba is right now a failed nation. They don't even have jet fuel to get for airplanes to take off. They're clogging up their runway. We're talking to Cuba right now. I have Marco Rubio talking to Cuba right now, and they should absolutely make a deal because it's really a humanitarian threat. And we have a lot of great Cuban Americans, and they're going to be very happy when they're going to be able to go back and say hello to their relatives and do things that they should have been allowed to do for a long time. I'm very interested in the people that are here that were treated so badly by Castro and the Cuban authorities. They have been treated horribly. So we'll see how it all turns out. But Cuba and us, we are talking. In the meantime, there's an embargo. There's no oil. There's no money. There's no anything.
If a deal isn't made, would you consider an operation like the one in Venezuela?
I don't want to answer that. Why would I answer that? If I was, it wouldn't be a very tough operation, as you can figure. But I don't think that'll be necessary.
Mr. President, Marco Rubio received really positive reviews in Munich. Is there
Very good reviews.
Is there a scenario in which you would support him at the top of the ticket in 28?
Something I don't have to worry about now. I've got 3 years to go. So it's something I don't have to worry. JD's fantastic and Marco's, they're both fantastic. I think Marco did a great job in Munich.
President Xi, in your talk with him recently, it warned about sending more weapons to Taiwan. What was your response to him? Are you going to send more weapons to Taiwan?
I have a response. I'm talking to him about it. We had a good conversation, and we'll make a determination pretty soon.
Tell us about your trip
We have a very good relationship with President Xi.
Tell us
In
about.
fact, I'll be going, I guess, in April.
I'm sorry. Tell us about your trip to Rome, Georgia on Thursday. Your trip to Marjorie Taylor Greene's old district.
Well, we have a lot of people that want to take Marjorie Taylor Greene's place, and many candidates, and I have to choose one. And they say whoever I endorse is going to win, but we have a lot of good candidates who want to take her place.
So your Board of Peace meets for the first time this week. You said it could be the most consequential international organization ever. That's a high bar. What do you want for this first meeting?
Well, I think it can be. We're going to have all world leaders. They're putting up tremendous amounts of money, and I think it's going to go far beyond Gaza. I think it'll be peace all over the world. And we're working in conjunction with the United Nations. Look, the United Nations is there. They haven't lived up to potential. The United Nations has great potential. They haven't lived up to the potential, but I think they might aid us a little bit. But we have the greatest leaders in the world joining the Board of Peace, and we'll be doing it in conjunction with, in some cases, the United Nations, and see if we can get the United Nations to get on the ball.
You've been a kingmaker in a lot of Republican primaries. A lot of people,
Including foreign nations. I was very honored to see that a very wonderful prime minister in Japan won by a landslide, I think she was going to win, but she won by just about the biggest vote ever in Japan. And she attributed my endorsement for that. And that's very good because we have a great relationship with her and Japan.
A lot of Republicans in D.C. are asking you to endorse John Cornyn, but you haven't yet. Is there a chance you would endorse Paxton, and why haven't you endorsed Cornyn?
I just haven't made a decision on that race yet. It's got a ways to go, and I haven't. He's a good man. John is I like all three of them, actually. I like all three. Those are the toughest races. They've all supported me. They're all good. And you're supposed to pick one, so we'll see what happens. But I support all three.
Are you going to get involved in the rift between UAE and Saudi Arabia?
No, I'm not. I would be.
What do you think of that?
I would be. Well, I could settle it very easily. But they do indeed have a rift, and we can get it settled very easily. I settle wars. I settle a lot of rifts between countries. You've been noticing, right? That's an easy one to settle.
On Venezuela, Desi Rodriguez last week said that Nicolas Maduro is still a legitimate president and is innocent. I know you said the relationship is a 10, but I'm curious what's your
I think
thoughts
we have
on
a
that?
great relationship. I think she probably has to say that. I think politically maybe she has to say that. But the relationship with Venezuela, she's doing a very good job. And I fully understand that statement.
In Gaza,
You're going to have Ukraine talks tomorrow as well in Geneva with Witkoff and Jared Kushner.
Yeah.
What are you expecting there? Is there
Well, they're big talks. It's going to be very easy. I mean, look, so far, Ukraine better come to the table fast. That's all I'm telling you. We are in a position. We want them to come. And by the way, I watched AOC answering questions in Munich. This was not a good look with the United States. I watched Gavin Newsom answering questions in Munich, and this was a bad look for our country. These two people are incompetent. And at least Hillary's competent. She's just Trump deranged. She was so deranged. She is an angry woman, but I watched the other two speaking and answering basic questions. Look, Gavin has destroyed California, and AOC, I never heard her speak very much, and they started answering questions. She had no idea what was happening. She had no idea how to answer, very important questions concerning the world. But she can't answer questions concerning New York City either.
First, the economy. The president opens with financial numbers low inflation. Gasoline under $2 in many places. Now think about that. For years, we were told high gas prices were Putin's fault. We were told inflation was transitory. We were told Americans just needed to adjust expectations. But what did he say? Drill, baby, drill. Energy independence isn't just a slogan, it's leverage. When gas prices drop, transportation drops. When transportation drops, food costs drop. Manufacturing costs drop. The entire supply chain relaxes. Energy is the backbone of the economy, and he knows it. You don't have to love the man's personality to admit that energy policy drives price stability. Now, let's talk about the government shutdown. He called it a Democrat shutdown. And here's the key point he made. Voter ID, proof of citizenship, and mail-in ballots. Let me say something clearly as a patriot who believes in election integrity. Requiring ID to vote is not radical. You need ID to board a plane. You need ID to open a bank account. You need ID for everyday life in America. But to vote in the most powerful nation on earth? Somehow that's controversial. The American people overwhelmingly support voter ID. That's common sense. And when he ties it to broader cultural fights like biological men competing in women's sports, what he's doing is drawing a contrast between traditional order versus progressive ideology. Now, you may agree or disagree with the framing, but politically, it's sharp. It draws clean lines. Then Iran. He said Iran is tough, but also said they want a deal. He referenced sending B-2 bombers to eliminate nuclear capability. Now, whether you agree with that move or not, here's what stands out. He's signaling deterrence. The message is simple: negotiate seriously or consequences follow. That's not diplomacy through apology. That's diplomacy through leverage. For decades, U.S. foreign policy has swung between endless war and endless appeasement. What he's trying to project is something else. Strength first, deal second. Now let's talk crime. He claimed the lowest murder numbers since 1900. That's a bold statement. But the broader message is clear: law enforcement matters. He defended ICE. He defended deportations. He said tens of thousands of criminals have been removed. As a patriot, I believe a nation has the right to enforce its borders. Compassion matters. Humanity matters. But sovereignty matters too. A country without borders is not a country. Cuba was another key moment. He called a failed nation and said talks are happening. He framed it as humanitarian, but with leverage. When asked about possible military-style operations, he declined to answer directly. That's not weakness. That's strategic ambiguity. You don't broadcast your playbook. Ukraine in the global stage? He said Ukraine should come to the table fast. That reflects a broader frustration. Many Americans feel we want clarity. We want an end game. We don't want endless funding without accountability. Supporting allies doesn't mean writing blank checks forever. And then he introduced the Board of Peace idea, claiming it could be one of the most consequential international organizations ever assembled. Ambitious? Absolutely. But it reinforces how he sees himself, a deal maker, not just a politician. Then there was Hillary Clinton and the Epstein issue. He said he's been exonerated and flipped the narrative back on critics. That's his style. Never play defense for long. Counterpunch. Expand the battlefield. It's combative. It's unapologetic. And it resonates with voters who feel conservative voices are constantly on defense culturally and politically. China and Taiwan. He confirmed discussions with President Xi and said a decision would come soon. That's one of the most sensitive geopolitical issues in the world right now. Strength without recklessness. That's the balance he's projecting. And yes, the lighter moment, Melania. He called her a movie star, praise her work, dodge Valentine's Day details. You can tell he respects her role and sees her as part of the broader diplomatic picture. So what did we just witness overall? A president comfortable taking rapid-fire questions, comfortable defending his policies, comfortable drawing sharp contrasts. You can debate the numbers. You can debate the tone. You can debate the strategy. But you cannot say he hides from press. As a right-leaning patriot, what stands out is this. He talks about borders. He talks about law enforcement. He talks about energy independence. He talks about election integrity. He talks about American leverage abroad. Those themes resonate with Americans who believe in sovereignty, stability, and strength. Now, listen, patriotism doesn't mean blind loyalty. It means loving your country enough to want it secure, prosperous, and respected. But compared to bureaucratic doublespeak and scripted talking points, this was blunt. And bluntness reads as authenticity to millions of Americans. Air Force One. No script. Every topic imaginable. And a president who thrives in confrontation. Love him or hate him, he commands attention. All right, folks, that's my take. If you believe in strong borders, secure elections, energy dominance, and American strength on the world stage, you probably saw a lot to like in that gaggle. If you want more breakdowns like this, real talk, no spin, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay patriotic.